Welcome to the Unlist. This video is going to feel like some of my very first videos where I held a camera or cell phone right up to my face. The absolute zero production values, right back to square one. And I'm going to explain why that is in just a second. But I am featuring a fragrance in this video, so we are not just talking about me and my situation and what happened to my channel, but I do want to say that episode 167 is the last you will ever see in that space I affectionately refer to as the void. And the reason for that is simple. I no longer work at the building where that space was actually located. And I should say I could count my blessings there because I worked at that building for 7 years as security there. And both my bosses and the property management know I have this fragrance addiction, this penchant, if you will, for collecting and reviewing fragrances. And I had the combined blessings of everyone to utilize empty space in that building to make my videos. Granted, I don't have a whole lot of money for production, so I did no editing, no fancy background. I'm not Ashton of Jensen's or Sebastian of Smelling Great, where I had a wall of perfumes and lights and themed music and all that. It was just an empty space, but at least it was a space, right? It was something. And I could set up a tripod there, I could set up a little camera holster there, and I could record videos, and thus I did. Either before work, because I can't do this stuff on company time, right? Like I said, count my blessings that they let me use the space, but obviously can't interfere with work, so I had to film them either before work started, on a lunch break, or after work finished, and then I'd be late getting home. So one of those three things was how I did it. So that was basically what I did. I would either do the video first thing, or I would skip out on eating a lunch and I'd eat later and just do the video then, or I'd do the video after the shift ended. But I would use that space. And I made, well, you see how many episodes I racked up there. It's quite a few. And you guys might be wondering, well, what about that server room? Well, yes, that server room I used for all of my still pictures and a lot of my live streams I did on Instagram, which those were unfortunately on the clock. But again, I was given a little bit of leeway to do that. But I discontinued the live streams in that server room because they were running long, and at the time the business was picking up in that building. Contractors were coming and going, renovations were being done, and I found myself being interrupted constantly, and no one likes me getting up and leaving for 20 minutes at a time and coming back while the camera's running. That got a little stupid. So I just said, well, you know what, this is starting to interfere with my job now. So even though I was sitting there doing those live streams while watching security footage, watching cameras, talking to you guys on one end, looking at cameras, so my eyes would often, like you would notice my eyes would go over here or look at something else and then come back to the camera because I was doing my job while I was talking. Because I can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, right? I'm able to multitask. Most guys supposedly can't do that, but I could. However, those live streams had to come to an end because they were getting too long, too involved, and I found it better to just transition to YouTube videos where I could record them before I clock in, during a lunch, after I clock out, etc., right? So that's what I was doing. Now, what happened? That building lost its primary tenant, which was a tech company. That tech company went bankrupt. Chapter 7, so that means dissolved, gone, ceased to exist. They joined the choir in Visibule like the dead parrot from Monty Python. They were banging it on the counter and going, this company is no more. It has ceased to be. So for the next 2 years, there was no tenant in that building. And money is not an infinite supply. Even though it technically is all fiat currency, it still has a finite value for most people. So after 2 years of trying and failing to secure another tenant for that building, it was an office building, by the way, not residential. The owners just threw in the towel, and they were still paying on the property. They hadn't fully paid off the mortgage, and the mortgage was close to $500 million, because real estate is worth a lot of money, right? That's why nobody has houses to live in now. Everybody lives out of cars and stuff because real estate has become like an asset. So, well, they couldn't pay the mortgage anymore, so the bank repossessed the building. And those of you who know anything about real estate, you know when the bank repossesses an empty building, a building with no tenants, they go, well, we don't need expenses, so no security, no janitors or maintenance services, and barely any engineers. Just one engineer that keeps the place from burning down. Basically, that's it. Keeps the place from flooding, keeps the place from burning down. So they can't go no engineers, but they can have one that's on call that isn't there really, but shows up there periodically. Like I said, to make sure that people aren't squatting or whatever and burning the place down. So that's it. I had to pack my bags and leave. And no one really wanted me to go. You know, like I said, property management didn't want me to go. Nobody wanted me to go. But the owners were insolvent. There were no tenants coming in. The bank was repossessing the building. So there was literally no one to employ me. I actually outlived my employers. So, thus, working for an agency as I do, I was reassigned. And the new building I was assigned to, the new clients, is better, closer to work. Closer to home. Work is closer to home now. So I have a 10-minute commute instead of an hour-long commute. That's good. It's a plus. But that cool little arrangement I had with that empty space I could use for my videos, well, that's gone. And this particular site where I'm at is a much busier site. There are other guards there with me. I'm not alone. So I don't really have the time or the privacy to just kind of squirrel myself away and do 25-minute long videos. I just don't. So that raises the question, well, where am I going to do my videos in the future? How am I going to do them? Well, I'm going to have to either find the time, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and splice them together, which will create, for the first time in my channel's history, editing. But it's not going to be editing in the sense of fancy graphics, royalty-free music, like I said, mood lighting in the background with 20 grand worth of free bottles given to me by expensive niche brands. None of that typical influencer stuff. Like I said, no hate. No hate on the big channels who have it like that. I'm just saying that I will not have that. And I will continue to not have that. But I will have to start doing videos piecemeal. You know, like I said, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I will try to make it seem as least incongruous as possible. But I don't think I'm going to have 25 minutes at a clip to sit in front of a camera anymore. And I can do videos at my house, but I also live with 2 other people. And I do like spending time with the people I live with. I am a social creature. So, again, having the space and the privacy to just go off in a corner for 25 minutes and tell my roommates to shut up and not talk for 25 minutes, to leave me alone while I yak about perfume to random people online, that's not going to go over very well, right? I don't live in a big house. Again, I'm not someone like Persolays. I'm not someone like Steven from Adolescence. I don't have, you know, this lifestyle where I have a private den or a study or whatever, or a studio set up where I can do stuff like this. I don't have that. So if I'm not doing videos at work, I'm doing videos at home, and in both cases, I'm around people. I am always around people. I can take my phone with me, like in a pinch, and go walk in a park, and then walk, talk to my phone, have a selfie stick, look like a total dork holding a selfie stick while I walk through a park and talk about perfumes. I could really do that if I had to, but God, I just perish the thought of me having to do something like that. But it's getting a bit more challenging logistically. Now, my life is the same as it was, if not better, because I like where I am better than where I was. The money is the same, if not a little bit higher. My hours are the same. You know, I don't have any complaints there. And I actually do like having coworkers. It gives me someone to talk to. In fact, there are a couple of coworkers here already who like perfume and cologne that I've been able to talk to and give samples away to that were given to me by people, like pass the stuff along. So I'm already working my magic in that regard with my coworkers, getting them into perfume, letting them know that I review and stuff. So that's fun. But all of that cuts into my ability to make content. Reviews, not so much. You know, I can have a living room full of housemates and they're playing games, they're watching movies. I'm sitting in the corner writing a review. That's fine. It's just doing a video. That's where the problem comes into play, doing a video. Now, as I said, I do have fragrance to talk about today, so I will talk about a fragrance. I will talk about it in brief. I feel like it's a perfume that probably deserves a video unto itself, dedicated without a 10 minutes worth of what's going on with me. But this video title is, as you see it, this is end of an era, right? Personal update. So the main point of this video is to talk about what's going on with me, which is, like I said, videos are going to get a lot more slapdash going forward. The production values, what little there was, is going to deteriorate, basically. Like I said, sorry, nothing can be done for it. I just don't have the privacy, the space, the infrastructure, and the time to do polished videos. And the fact that I was able to do those long 25-minute interruption-free sessions of, like, you know, those dissertations, the fact that I was able to do that for 2 whole years is a miracle unto itself. And I am grateful for being given the time and the space to do that, and thus I took advantage of it with every waking moment. In fact, knowing that I was going to leave that building, knowing that it was closing down, that it was basically being boarded up, more or less, knowing that, the last month I was there, because I didn't want you guys to have a skip in content, I didn't want you to have a lapse, I literally did one video every day, every week, for like 3 weeks straight. So I filmed like literally 15 videos in 1 month, just so I could space them out every couple days, 3 a week, then 2 a week, and then 1 a week. So I literally spent the last month I was there grinding out videos, just so that you guys could have uninterrupted videos. Now, of course, the consequence of that is I burned myself right on the fuck out. I was burned the fuck out. Burned out bad after doing the stress of moving job sites, the stress of learning a new building, new security protocols, all that stuff. Combined with the uncertainty of my channel, the uncertainty of everything, and trying to backfill like 2 months worth of episodes in 3 weeks. Yeah, that was peak anxiety for me, and I was just done after that, which is why I didn't do any shorts. I stopped writing reviews, like written reviews. I stopped writing reviews for a whole month. I just had to decompress. You know, I took my motor and I took the revs to the red line. I was redlining, man. I was all the way up here in the red, and that was it. It was going to blow a gasket, so I had to say, nope, let's stop. Let's take it down. Let's shift into overdrive, slow down the RPM, let things cool down a bit. So I did that, put myself on cruise control, and then just coasted down the highway for like the next month or so. Learned my new site. Enjoyed playing some video games. I played a handful of games. I'm the guy that likes all the retro games because they weren't retro when I was a kid. I grew up with them because I'm old. So, like, I spent some time playing a lot of 8-bit stuff, Atari stuff, Nintendo stuff. I also got into some of the 90s first-person shooters that I enjoyed as a kid, back when we had DOS and Windows 95 computers. So a lot of those games are reissued, remastered, re-released. So I was playing stuff like Doom, Doom 2, Rise of the Triad, Blood, Duke Nukem 3D, Doom 64, Shadow Warrior, Killing Time, Power Slave, Quake 2, Strife, just a lot of these old 90s shooters, Hexen, Heretic, all that stuff. You know, all that old stuff. And then, of course, a couple of newer games that emulate the older style. Like, there's a game called Dusk. Dusk feels like an old 90s shooter. There's a game called Ion Fury. Ion Fury is pretty cool because Ion Fury actually is built on the same graphics engine as Duke Nukem. So if you remember Duke Nukem and Blood and Shadow Warrior back in the day, 3D Realms, that engine, they're called the build engine. Ion Fury is built on that engine. So it's a new game built on 30-year-old tech. That's pretty impressive. And it plays on consoles, it plays on Switch, it plays on PC, blah, 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 blah. So I was having fun doing that stuff and just not bothering with Perfume. Listening to music, watching movies. I saw the Deadpool Wolverine movie twice over because I have poor taste in comedy, so I think Deadpool's awesome. I like Ryan Reynolds again. I have poor taste in comedy, but I also like Monty Python and Saturday Night Live, so it kind of goes without saying. I have that really shitty taste in jokes. My jokes are not politically correct on a good day, so we'll just leave it at that. Now, before I cap this off, I will touch in brief about this new fragrance I did pick up. Very ouchy, very expensive, but after all the stress and everything I was under, I was like, fuck it. Let's get this done. So this new limited edition Allure Homme Sport flanker came out called Superleggera. And if you don't know what Superleggera is, it's a coach builder. So it's not Ferrari, it's not Porsche, it's not Aston Martin. It's a third-party company that used to provide frames for those other sports manufacturers. So if you were Aston Martin, if you were Porsche, if you were Ferrari, if you were any of these sports companies, you could hire out to Superleggera to coach build you a frame for your car. And they specialized in these really lightweight tube frames. So they built these lightweight tube frames that then the chassis would go around, you know, whether you were doing fiberglass or aluminum, whatever your deal was, they would build this tube frame, this super light tube frame that then your car could be built around. And that would make the car lighter and thereby faster. Right? To wit, it was creating a faster car by saving on the weight. And Superleggera existed for a long time. They still technically exist, but those tube frames don't pass crash tests anymore. They don't pass safety inspections in most countries in the world. So these days, when you get Superleggera to do something for you, it's more like a tuning shop. They just customize the aero. They lighten up the car by gutting out the non-essential stuff. So they're just an aftermarket mod. They can make special versions of cars, like a Superleggera version of an Aston Martin or something, but they don't build the frames bespoke anymore. They're not really a coach builder because the what they did, like I said, doesn't pass. But Chanel decided to cross-promote with them for whatever reason. Seems kind of tacky, right? You think Chanel would be above that. They don't typically do cross-promotions. Other brands do that. You know, but maybe times are tight. You know, they're desperate. You can read my written review. My written review has more articulate thoughts on this fragrance. But, so, for whatever reason, they did the cross-promotion. They produced the Allure Homme Sport Superleggera. And it's cool because it's got the little embossed, the logo is actually embossed on the bottle. It's not painted. It's physically there in relief. It's kind of cool. But the more important thing is, what does it smell like, right? What does this thing, this $172, God, I've paid less money for niche fragrances than I have for this. Like, it's god-awful expensive. Why is this thing so much? What does it smell like, right? For that kind of money, you know, for that kind of money, what am I getting? So, I'll tell you, I'm wearing it right now anyway, but I like to smell the spray head anyway. What you're getting is you're basically getting Olivier Polge doing effectively a market test. He's trying to figure out where to take Chanel, right? Because Bleu de Chanel is now 14 years old. And yeah, it used to be a thing where Chanel wouldn't do a men's fragrance from, you know, more than once a decade. In the case of Paul Monsieur from 55, it took him 25 years to follow that up, which that's a long time. So we're now 14 years into Bleu de Chanel. So I guess he decided to finally take a crack at a mainstream fragrance. He can't do less exclusives and parfum flankers forever. He's got to do something on the entry level, but I don't consider $172 entry level anyway. But that's not entry level. That's entry level if you're a rich bastard. But you know, most of us poor people who are hand to mouth, we don't consider that entry level. But it's it's like well, I mean, I don't want to shortchange it, but I'll do a proper video later. Like I said, a longer video, but it's like a it's like Allure Homme and Bleu de Chanel mixed together with a bit of Hermes in the base. People will say Sauvage, but I beg to differ. I mean, a little bit, but the minerally sharp, woody, like ambery profile to me reads more like Citron Noir by Hermes or Apis Marine in the Hermescence range than it does Dior Sauvage. I mean, I can, if I squint, I can see Dior Sauvage, but I would much rather compare it to Hermes than to Dior. So, Allure Homme Sport mixed with a bit of Bleu de Chanel mixed with that minerally incensey base of like Citron Noir by Hermes. And it lasts a long time, very potent. You have to scrub it off. It's an eau de parfum and it wears like one. So, but whether it's worth almost $200, that's up to you to decide. It's a big ask, So, but there you have it. Now you know what's happened to me. Now you know what's going on, and you've got a little bit of insight concerning this new fragrance, which is very limited edition. I'll give more detailed thoughts on it later. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.